What's going on, everybody? My name is Colton and welcome back. It's been a while. Haven't uploaded a video since we previewed the entire playoff bracket about a month ago. I also did the power ranking all the NFL playoff teams, which is fun. But now here we are. The Seahawks have soared their way to Super Bowl 60. It'll be the Seahawks and the Patriots, a rematch of Super Bowl 49, and of course the last time the Seahawks reached the big game. So very exciting, a lot to talk about with this matchup. But I first want to kind of delve back into earlier in the season and kind of how we got here, because it's been such an amazing ride as a Seahawks fan. And then to get this matchup, especially as a Seahawks fan living in Massachusetts, to get the opportunity to avenge that loss in Super Bowl 49 when I was just, 14 years old or whatever, is pretty amazing. This is going to be a very fun weekend ahead. But first, kind of want to delve back into some receipts from earlier in the year and talk a little bit about this team and how remarkable a run they really went on and how crazy it was that they were doubted. Now, obviously, coming into the year, I was very high on them, of course. I was labeled biased and such, but it really is alarmingly disrespectful how the Seahawks were talked about in the preseason. I'm sure you've seen the clips of people ranking them to finish last in the NFC West, etc., etc. But I obviously placed a Super Bowl ticket on the Seahawks in the preseason. I'll put it up on the screen here. And they were plus 6,000 at the time in the preseason, which is just incredible to me. I put $50 there, as you can see, to win over $3,000. And I know on the other side, the Patriots were plus 8,000. They were even more. But, their path to get here was just a little bit different from Seattle's. And it's just amazing how Mike Macdonald in just year two has completely revamped this team. This is a team in Seattle that a year ago with Geno Smith barely missed the playoffs, lost in a crazy tiebreaker to the Rams. They were 10-7. They were the only 10-win team to not make the playoffs last year. This was a team that should have been on a lot of people's radars a lot sooner, and yet still halfway through the season I was being gaslit into thinking this team wasn't amazing. And, do I want handwritten apologies from Sam Darnold haters? No. Maybe. Probably. But it's all good. He's got here. He made it through the playoffs. Everybody said he couldn't win the big game, but he has time and time again proved how clutch he can be. We go back, let's just go back to the beginning part of the season. Sam Darnold kind of did what he did last year with Minnesota, put up some good numbers. He did have a little bit of a lull in the middle of the season where he was turning the ball over a lot. In that game, that first matchup with the Rams where they lost 21-19 and Darnold had 4 interceptions, was a big talking point for all of Sam Darnold's critics. And, it was understandable at the time that he got some flack for that performance because it obviously was a bad game, but he still battled back and they were still in that game. It came down to a missed field goal at the end. And then, of course, in the second game, which was labeled a big game, I think by most people, against the Rams, put them on track to get the 1 seed. Sam Darnold absolutely delivered with an amazing comeback and won 38-37 in overtime. And then in week 18 for the number 1 seed, of course, they dominated San Francisco and won 13-3. So that in and of itself, I felt like was enough to really get some people off Sam Darnold's back, and yet still they said he couldn't win the playoffs, couldn't do it. They beat the Niners in absolute dominant fashion in the divisional round, 41-6. And then, of course, that brings us to the NFC Championship game. And what we saw was Sam Darnold outduel the MVP Matthew Stafford, who just won MVP last night at the NFL Honors. Sam Darnold outplayed him. Now, I know they had similar stats if you just look at the numbers, but if you look at third and fourth down, Sam Darnold was just absolutely on fire, and Matthew Stafford was like 0 for 9 or something like that. So Darnold absolutely proved himself, and now he's got one final chance to really shut everyone up for good here in Super Bowl 60 against the Patriots. Real quick before we dive into the matchup, I do want to take a look back. So this is petty or not. I think these are comments just highlighted just the doubt that people had about this Seahawks team. And petty or not, I think these comments from my video 5 months ago really highlight just how people really disagreed and doubted this Seahawks team. Even a Seahawks fan, as you can see here, I think we're ranked too high. And mind you, I was gaslit so much into thinking people were like, you're crazy for the Seahawks. I put them in strong playoff team. I didn't even put them, in that top tier. And yet you still have comments like this. I will take the Niners over the Seahawks this season for any amount you want. I wish I took it. I wish we could have made the deal work, JP Losman 0711, because the Seahawks were by far the better team. Seahawks should be in hopeful. This comment really gets me. Look at the background sports paraphernalia, and that should tell you all you need to know about the Seahawks being ranked that high. Nobody in Vegas thinks that, as if you couldn't take a team outside of the teams that Vegas had favored. And yes, do got a lot going on back here. But listen, I was very confident. I was really trying to separate the biasness out of it in a way that I could use just logic and what's on the football field here to explain how much potential this team really had. But as you can see, a lot of people weren't having it. But all that aside, regardless of how they've been doubted, they're facing a team on the other side, the New England Patriots, which have had many critics as well. I certainly have pointed to their schedule as, something you have to acknowledge when talking about the team. I don't think, you don't control who you play whoever's in front of you, but it's just like a fact of the matter. They had the easiest schedule. They had like the third easiest schedule in history or whatever the statistic was. So that was just something to keep in mind with the Patriots. I did not think they were going to reach the Super Bowl. If you watched my playoff predictions video, I had Seahawks Bills. We know how that tragically ended for Josh Allen and Buffalo this year. But New England, if we first take a look at their playoff path, they had the Chargers in the first round. I think the Chargers are a very good team, but their offensive line was absolutely decimated. Justin Herbert had absolutely no time to do anything, and Drake May and the Patriots kind of struggled on offense. Round 2, they played an elite defense in the Houston Texans, and CJ Stroud had maybe the worst quarterback performance I ever saw in my life, and still the Texans were in striking distance in the fourth quarter. Drake May and the offense kind of struggled. There was some rainy conditions in that game, so definitely want to note that. And then in the AFC Championship game, Bo Nix, who does just enough to beat the Bills, but hurts himself at the last possible moment, out for the AFC Championship game, and Jarrett Stidham gets the nod against the Patriots. And, of course, the Patriots do find a way to win. The Broncos, amazing defense. Don't want to take it away from the Patriots there. Sean Payton made some, I think, major errors in that game. I don't think they're necessarily all hindsight is 2020 type of errors. I think in the moment, you had a backup quarterback. I know a lot of people wanted him to kick the field goal to go up 10-0, and he did not. It wasn't even necessarily that, but it's the fact that they had a rollout with Jarrett Stidham that was just perplexing, stuff like that. But the Patriots, went up 10-7, and then there was like an absolute snowstorm blizzard in the second half, and they held on as Stidham, I think, had one first down or something in the second half. So the Broncos struggled, and the Patriots defense did its job. Once again, though, the Patriots and their offense struggled, and a lot of people saying because of the snow, but the first half, the conditions were fine, cold but fine, and the Patriots offense couldn't muster a thing. So I just want that context in mind. They played some very good defenses here in the playoffs, but it's been the Patriots defense that has really gotten this team to this point, and they are a very good group. And I think the biggest MVP for the Patriots right now is Mike Vrabel. I think he is the fact that New England is coming off 2-4-13 seasons, and he has completely turned them around in 1 year. He is such a good coach. Tennessee should be kicking themselves for ever letting him go out the building, and I can't believe they fired him. I've always thought Mike Vrabel was an amazing coach, and he's clearly proving that this season once again. But as for a matchup, and this is where I don't want to get too cocky, this is the Super Bowl, everything on the line, one of the most pressure spots in sports, if not the most pressure spot in sports. But I'm very, very confident in the Seahawks' ability to take down the New England Patriots on Sunday. And I don't think it's very arguable that the Seahawks are a far more talented team. I think if you listen to anybody preview this game, they would agree with that statement, unless you're, in Delulu land with the Patriots, I guess. But the Seahawks have the advantage at almost every position, I would argue. I think people would say, oh, Drake May is better than Sam Darnold. Personally, I just cannot say that because of what I've seen from Sam Darnold. I've watched every snap of this guy for the whole season. Drake May, MVP runner-up, has had an amazing year, but I think Sam Darnold's in the exact same conversation, and I truly believe that, and I'm not going to be gaslit any further into thinking otherwise. What's making me the most nervous about this game, first of all, it's a Super Bowl. It's been 11 years since we made it. Obviously, that's all in play here for nerves, and it's just against, the team where I live. Like, it's constant chatter around me. All that you got to keep in mind. Just from a game perspective, if I'm being honest, what actually scares me the most now is that everybody's now on Seattle. They were doubted the whole year, and I was like, you got to be kidding, and now everybody's on Seattle. That almost worries me a little bit because I just feel like the pressure is a little bit more on Seattle right now. I do hate that Patriots fans are already playing the card of, like, we got house money, and we're playing with house money. It doesn't even, we win or we win and we're champions, or we lose and, nobody thought we could get here. It's just kind of a loser mindset, in my opinion. I think you never know when you're going to get back to the Super Bowl. Some teams have never made it. Some teams take years and years and decades to get back. Look at the Cowboys. Look at the Bills. Teams that just cannot get back. So you're in the Super Bowl. I don't believe in house money. That's, I think, a really dumb sentiment. But all this noise and chatter around it, I think, does kind of put more pressure on the Seahawks right now. The other big concern right now, of course, is Nick Emmanwori injuring his ankle in practice just a few days ago. Absolutely sucks. He is expected to play. I just really hope he's at 100% because he is such a critical part of this secondary and of this team. But like I said, I do think Seattle has the advantage in pretty much every position. New England's run game is certainly formidable, but I think Kenneth Walker, he has been reaching the next level especially since the unfortunate Zach Charbonnet injury. We don't need to talk about JSN any further. I mean, we know what he's done all year. He is the offensive player of the year for a reason. He has been dynamic and dominant and just so efficient all season. Cooper Kupp, Rashid Shaheed, I still think these weapons make the Seahawks receiving core a little stronger than New England's. I think New England's is actually underrated. Guys like Kayshon Boutte are under the radar sleeper guys that are pretty good. Hunter Henry in the tight end room, his core is pretty good, but I think A.J. Barner has been one of the unsung heroes of the Seahawks at times. Now, the biggest advantage for the Seahawks in this game has to be the offensive line. I'm sure you've heard people talk ad nauseum about it already. And it's not even that the Seahawks offensive line has been necessarily dominant all year. They haven't. But New England's offensive line is just not very good, especially the tackles. Will Campbell, his struggles have been, much discussed. He got absolutely dominated against the Broncos. The Seahawks D-line now does kind of form a lot of their pressures up the middle, and New England is a little bit stronger in the interior, so that does not concern me, but is something to note. I think DeMarcus Lawrence and guys on the edge will have to, really capitalize on the weaker tackles of New England. I'm definitely keying in on that because you see so many Super Bowls decided by who gets after the quarterback. Look at the Bucks and Chiefs from 2020. They got after Mahomes. Mahomes was doing everything in his ability to win that game, and he just didn't have the time. Receivers were dropping balls, but it really was the one in the trenches, and that's where I think Seattle can dominate here. Now, on the other side, can the Seahawks run the ball effectively against New England's D-line? I think that'll be a bit of a tougher challenge, but I think if they get some early success in that department, it'll open up the play-action game where Sam Darnold absolutely thrives. So I do think this is going to be a fun game. I did say that the Seahawks, my official prediction was going to be Seahawks 31, Patriots 14. I realize that sounds like a blowout. I'm not even saying it necessarily is going to feel like a blowout. I think it'll be close throughout, and then maybe the Seahawks can finally pull away late and get this thing done. But they're going to have to play clean football. I think if they play clean football, don't turn the ball over. New England's got a pretty good secondary with Christian Gonzalez themselves, but the Seahawks secondary, that's the last thing I wanted to mention was the secondaries. The Seahawks secondary with Devin Witherspoon, Julian Love, Kobe Bryant, Reek Woolen, Nicky Manwari, they just are so good. And then their linebackers, Ernest Jones and Drake Thomas, have been phenomenal. So New England's got a lot of guys, but Seattle can match them in every department, and I think this is going to be a great day for Seattle sports. I am very excited. And I think regardless, Sam Darnold needs to get his props finally, even before this game commences, because he has done an absolutely amazing job this season, and every hater should have shut their mouth permanently at this point about Sam Darnold. So very excited. I know this was just kind of a thrown together video. I just wanted to ramble a bit about Super Bowl 60. I hope you all enjoy the game. It's certainly going to be a fun one, and I will see you guys all very soon. Peace.